Hello everyone, I'm Miss Madhumita from 2nd Term English and Cauvery College for Women Autonomous in Trichy. This e-content is about the poem from 7 Laments for the War Dead written by Yehuda Amichai. Let's see about the author Yehuda Amichai. Yehuda Amichai was an Israel poet and author. He was born on May 3, 1924, Wandsbek, Germany, and he was died in September 2000 in Jerusalem, Israel. His poem was written in Hebrew, have been translated into more than 40 languages around the world. Next, let's see about the works and awards of Amichai. Now and in Other Days was published in the year 1955. The selected poetry of Yehuda Amichai was published in the year 1996. Next, The Exile at Home was published in the year 1998. Next, let's see the awards of Yehuda Amichai. He received Salansky Prize in 1957, Bronner Prize in 1969, Bialik Prize in 1976, Israel Prize in 1982. He also won International Poetry Prize and he was nominated several times for Nobel Prize in Literature. Next, let's see about the poem. From 7 Laments for the War Dead was a 7 brief poem. It was virtually written in Hebrew. This poem was translated into English by Amichai and Ted Hughes. The translated poem was titled in the name 7 Laments for the Fallen War. This poem is about Amichai war experiences. Now let's see the first stanza of the poem. Mr. Beringer, whose son fell at the canal that strangers dug, so ship could cross as a desert, crosses my path at Jaffa Gate. He has grown very thin, has lost the weight of his son. That's why he floats so lightly in the alloys and gets caught in my heart like a little twigs that drift away. So in the first stanza, the poet say, in Jerusalem there was a place named Jaffa Gate. There he see a man named Mr. Beringer, whose son was died in the war, which was happened in Suez Canal. Suez Canal is a place where the ship used to pass from one place to another place. Next, the poet say Mr. Beringer became very weak and dull due to the loss of his son in the war. He also say Mr. Beringer lost his weight and become lifeless. So, through the first stanza, the poet tried to convey the situation of the father after the loss of his son. Next, let's move to the second stanza of the poem. As a child, he would mash his potatoes to a golden mush, and then you die. A living child must be cleaned when he comes home from playing, but for a dead man, earth and sand or clear water, in which his body goes on being bathed and purified forever. So in the second stanza, the poet says about a small boy who enjoyed mashing the potatoes. Suddenly the boy was died because he went as a soldier. He was a very small boy. He does not know what is mean by life, but the war takes his life. Next, the poet says, if a small boy goes out for a play, he must be cleaned up when he returns home. But now he was went as a soldier and returned home as a dead. So he has to be cleaned with the sand of earth. So in the second stanza, the poet say how a war takes a young man. Next, let's move to the third stanza of the poem. The doom of the unknown soldier across the earth on the enemy's side, a good landmarks for the gunners of the future, are the war monument in London at Hyde Park Corner decorated like a magnificent cake at another soldier, lifting head and rifle, another cannon, another eagle, another stone angel, and the whipped cream of a huge marble flag poured over it all with an expert hand. But the candid much to red cherries were already gobbled up by the glutton of hearts. Amen. In the third stanza, the poet says about a war monument which was built for dead people. In London, there was a place named Hyde Park Corner where there was a monument built for a dead soldier. The monument looks very beautiful, like a white cake. In the cake, there was a soldier with a rifle, which resembles the upcoming of war and building of monuments once again. But the poet wished not to build the monuments again by stopping the war. Now let's move to the fourth stanza of the poem. I came upon an old zoology textbook, Brigham Volume 2 Birds, in sweet phrases, an account of the life of the starling swallow and thrush, full of mistakes in an antiquated Gothic typeface, but full of love too. Our feathered friends migrated from east to a warmer climes, nest speckled egg, soft plumage nightingale. Store the harbingers of spring, the robin red-breasted, year of publication 1913, Germany, on the eve of the war that was to be the eve of all my wars. My good friend who died in my arms in his blood on the sands of Ashdod, 1948 June. Oh, my friend, red-breasted. So in the fourth stanza, the poet says about all the zoology textbooks, whereas the book was about birds. The poet say about a particular bird named robin, whose neck was black color and chest was in a red color. So when the author see the bird robin, he able to remember his friend who was died in his hand with full of blood in his chest in the war which happens in Ashdod in 1948. Then the poet says about the publication of the book which was happened in 1913. So when you see the year 1913, he able to remember his first war which happens in 1913 in Germany. This was to be the starting point for all his war. So in the fourth stanza, the poet convey so whenever the soldiers sees a year or a red color, they only able to remember war. Now let's move to the fifth stanza of the poem. Dicky was hit like the water tower at Yat Motika hit. A hole in the belly, everything came floating out. But he has remained standing like that in the landscape of my memory, like the water tower at Yat Motikai. He fell not far from there, a little to the north near Howlekyot. So in the fifth stanza, the poet says about a soldier whose body was full of holes due to the gunshot in the war. He compares the soldier Dicky with a water tower in Yat Motikai, which has also holes and damage due to the war. So the poets say the water tower stands like a monument, and the dead soldier whole body also stays in his memory forever. Next, let's move to the sixth stanza of the poem. As all of this sorrow, I don't know. I stood in the cemetery dressed in the camouflage clothes of a living man, brown pants and shirt yellow as the sun. Cemeteries are cheap, they don't ask for much. Even the waste basket or small, made for holding tissue paper that wrapped flowers from the store. Cemeteries are polite and disciplined thing. I shall never forget you in French on a little ceramic plaque. I don't know who it is. That won't it ever forget. He is more anonymous than the one who died. Is all of the sorrow, I guess so. May I find consolation in the building of homeland, but how long? Can you go on building the homeland and not fall behind the terrible three-sided race between consolation and building and death? Yes, all of the sorrow, but live a little love burning always, like the small pulp in the room of a sleeping baby, that give him a bit of security and quiet love. Though he does not know what the light is or where it comes from. So, in the sixth stanza of the poem, the poet says about a cemetery which was built for a dead people. He says the cemeteries are cheap, where there was only tissues with small dustbin, and also there were more quotes written in marbles and ceramics. But we cannot find who wrote and for whom they wrote. There was a quote, I shall never forget you. We don't know who written this. More than a dead person, the quotes were more. But everyone forgot the dead people as the time passes. We can come out of the sadness only by the consolation that everything happens only for our homeland and its growth. But poets does not have faith in it. He say that everything ends in death. According to him, we can overcome this only by spreading love to others. The poets say how a mother light a candle when a baby sleep in order to make the baby comfort. So like this, we should show love to others by stopping war. Next, let's move to the seventh stanza of the poem. Memorial Day for the war dead. Go tack on the grief of all your losses, including a woman who left you, to the grief of losing them. Go mix one sorrow with another like a history that's in its economical way. Heaps pain and feast and sacrifice onto a single day for easy reference. Oh, sweet world, soak like bread in sweet milk for the terrible. Toothless God, behind all this, some great happiness is hiding. No use crying inside and screaming outside. Behind all this, some great happiness may be hiding. Memorial Day, bitter soul, dressed up as a little girl with flowers. Ropes are strung out the whole length of the route. For a joining parade, the living and the dead together. Children move with the footstep of someone else's grief, as if picking their way through brown glass. The flutist's mouth will stay pursed for many days. A dead soldier swims among these small heads with the swimming motion of the dead. With the ancient error, the dead have about the place of the living water. A flag loses contact with reality and flies away, window decked at with beautiful dress for women in a blue and white, and everything in three languages: Hebrew, Arabic, and death. A great royal beast has been dying all night long under the jasmine with a fixed stare at the world. A man whose son died in the war walks up the street like a woman with a dead fetus inside her womb. Behind all this, some great happiness is hiding. So, in the seventh stanza, the poet talks about a memorial day. In this day, we should come out of all our sadness and griefness. During this day, the flutes get a job and they sing for the dead people. And the children will be dressed up in the same color with the ribbons and make a march fast for the dead persons. And the memories of the dead person swims in our heads, and the women will be dressed in white and blue in order to express their sorrowness. The flag will be flied very low during this day in order to express its sorrowness towards the dead soldier. Everything happens in one side. In another side, there was a man who lost his son in the war. Walks silently with a broken heart. He feels like a mother carrying his dead fetus because his son was died in the war and there is nothing more in his life. So, but at the end, all this happens with hiding happiness. The poets say there is no happy ending due to the war. Thank you.